What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devin. This is your host, Melo. Beside me right here, we got a little something different for you today. We're not ones to really keep beating a dead horse, but I believe this horse needs to keep being beat. Now, let me pause, make a little statement there. I love animals. I got a pet raccoon. Don't beat any horses. Don't beat any animals. I'm just trying to get a point across there. So we're going to talk about today the scandal involving the team up north. And what I'm going to do, what me and Melo are going to do, is we're going to go down through the timeline. And there's one specific thing that we're going to talk about. And me and Melo were led to record this video after listening to Scoop. And Nevada Buck had dropped a few things over there regarding this specific thing that I believe doesn't get talked about enough. I wish it would. I think there's a lot behind it that people are missing. And I love seeing like the message boarders and just fans uncover this stuff. Because Mel, I don't know if you know, I think you do. A lot of this stuff during this investigation was uncovered like by message board people and just normal fans, man. What do you think about that?
I think it's crazy. It just shows like us as fans, we have more power than you know. And like if it wasn't for guys like Bro Ohio, maybe nobody would have known about any of this, you know. If it wasn't for Jim Harbaugh probably pissing off some of his staff, we would have never known because it obviously got leaked from inside originally.
Yeah. So, well, here's the rumor about how this got started. This is the information I know, that there were those computer crimes being investigated there with, was it Weiss?
Yeah, Matt Weiss.
Weiss or whatever.
Weiss, whatever.
Weasel. And when the FBI, whoever, pulled all the stuff off their computer, somehow when that happened, they found all this, like the spreadsheet that kept records of this, the sign, or the I don't want to say sign stealing because I don't know why that name's got attached to it.
Advanced scouting.
It's the advanced scouting that was the problem, the recording and the advanced scouting. So supposedly that's how it got started. And then I think the whole Ryan Day's brother was a private investigator. I think we can thank old Menace to Sports for that over there.
Shout out Zach Smith and all these idiots ran with it. And they're still running with it like a year later almost. Like it's so crazy.
You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. So why are we talking about this? We're not talking about this because we're Buckeye fans. We're talking about this because we're college football fans. And I fully believe that what they did is a disgrace to college football. To me, it was like one of the last remaining like pure sports out there with really good competition. Now Neil's involved and that's thrown that to the side a little bit, but I don't know, man. I just love college football so much. And then to see a team do this and cause this much problems in a sport that I love to watch, it just sucks. Now, is there part of the rivalry inside of me? 100%, but that's not why we're recording this video. I'm recording this video in the hopes that somebody sees this and helps us try to uncover, what the heck is going on with this I almost skipped ahead to what we were going to say, but help us uncover what we're going to talk about today. Yeah.
And just to let you guys know before we do a deep dive on this, I am actually in South Florida right now with my daughter. She has a couple of soccer games, so that's why I'm not in my normal attire because we've been driving for a couple of days now just to get here from Atlanta. So just want to say thank you for watching and thank Dev for dealing with me. We were supposed to go live yesterday, but like we had issues. My daughter was tired, wanted to go to sleep, so we had to postpone it to today.
Yeah. I see that Harlem Globetrotters. You ever watch them?
Man, when I was little, they came to like my middle school, you know.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
I was obsessed with it, man. Basketball was my sport growing up, so I got obsessed with it. I wanted to be a Harlem Globetrotter for a long time. But Anyway, man, what I'm going to do just to refresh everybody's memory is I'm going to run down just like a very generic timeline of the events that occurred. So on October 18th, this is when the NCAA president got on a conference call with the NCAA, or got on a conference call and stated that they had highly credible evidence of a wide-ranging, multi-year, in-person, off-campus scouting scheme that the team up north was involved in. Now, do you remember when this first broke? Can you take yourself back to that moment?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
What was your reaction, man?
I was like, oh, immediately, this is my first reaction. That's how they won. I knew it looked different, but that's how it won. And then there was other questions. All the Michigan fans, Team Up North fans were saying, well, what happened in the second half? If we were cheating, how come we were a second half team? And then watching Scoop, who's been on top of this throughout, I think they're in the forefront of all the podcast game, including beat reporters on this aspect of covering the scandal. And they said he had like a computer system. So he was making his adjustments at halftime to figure out who the live caller was, the live signaler. So It made sense that they improved in the second half. And then if you think about that 22 team, that Ohio State team that lost to Georgia by 1 point and should have probably beat them by over 3 touchdowns if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get injured. And they beat that team. And you saw how they looked against TCU. It didn't add up, but it started to just like connect the dots slowly. Yeah. What about yourself? What were you thinking?
Along the lines of the same thing, but honestly, my first thing was to not jump ahead. I honestly thought this was a joke at first and wasn't true. But there was a side of me that was thinking, well, if this is true, it kind of makes sense because I've watched college football for a long time, man. And I had a pretty good idea of how good teams were. And just watching them play us, things just didn't make sense sometimes, you know? And we lost, 3 games, right? And it sucked, but I can never put my finger on like why we did it. I wanted to be mad at Day. I wanted to be mad at the players, but I really couldn't pinpoint who I was mad at. So I was like, dang, maybe this thing did happen, bro. Maybe it did. I mean, that would help it make sense for me.
Right.
Because last year was the only year that I thought they had like a halfway talented team, but mainly it was just full of 26-year-old, 6-year COVID players, 5th-year seniors, and all this stuff. And, when you got a 5th-year senior going up against those younger players, I mean, bro, you got a little bit of advantage.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
Sure. And, so then on October 19th, that's when Tony Petitti put a letter out that said that they have compromised the integrity of the game. And that very same day is like the first press conference where we hear Jim Harbaugh say, I knew nothing about it, his little thing. And before I continue, I want to speak on what you talked about. Yeah, if you want to know some details about this, Scoop is by far ahead of the game a lot on this. Everything they reported, I remember when this thing was going on, they would report it. And then the next day people would say, they're just blowing smoke. And then like the third day, other people would start reporting what they just reported, showing that it was true. So yeah, credit to them, man. There's some information we're going to talk about in this video that I got from the Buckeye Scoop message board. So I highly encourage you to get over there. They got a lot more than just the Michigan scandal. They got a lot of good stuff over there, but Jim Harbaugh got up there saying he didn't know anything about it. At this point in time, I was still like, I need to see something. But then Tony Petitti coming out and saying what he said, this is when I was like, oh crap, dude. You know what I mean? This thing might be real.
Right.
Remember when that letter came out? I believe this is the infamous Big Ten letter. It is. Yeah. It was. Yeah. October 19th, the Big Ten letter. Dude, have you ever read that thing all the way through?
I haven't read it myself, but I listened to Scoop read it about a dozen times, and then the beat read it probably another 5 times, and then Minutes read it about 10 times. So yeah.
Yeah. You go back, you pay attention to the words they used when they wrote that. You will no longer question whether this thing was proven or not, you know?
Yep.
But then October 20th is when the day after that came out, that's when Connor was suspended with pay. So it's kind of like they were like, I don't think they really know what we're doing. So let's just suspend them with pay. And this is the time I think they really started ramping up. Okay, we're about to have to lose Connor. Let's gather everything this dude's got, stash it away, make sure we got it.
Yeah, right.
You remember when they said he was Connor suspended with pay?
Yep.
You got any thoughts of what was going through your head when that happened?
My thoughts was, he was on the staff. Who else knew about this? But, going into the other chats, the fan chats, all the Team Up North fans were saying, he's not even on staff. He's not an employee. And I'm like, so then how did he get suspended with pay if he's not an employee? It just wasn't adding up. And then you could start seeing them as they're pulling they're coping with what is about to be revealed.
Yeah, for sure. Then October 24th is when this is just the first article I read. It was from Yahoo, and they revealed that Connor had bought like a lot of tickets from non-conference Team Up North games, and when it gets to that point, it's like, okay, now we're getting in deep. These dudes are going out and scouting people they might see in the playoffs or in non-conference games. And then October 26th is when TCU came out and said they knew they were cheating during their game, which is why you saw the results you saw in the TCU game. That's why you saw them lose. And I loved it. And that made a lot of sense when they came. What'd you think about when TCU came out and said that, man? Were you like,
man, I thought that was awesome. And then it went immediate to my head, like, if they knew, how did they know? Who did they hear from? How come Ohio State didn't know, Penn State, etc.? And then I watched Scoop, and it started adding up more. This bozo left his cheat sheet in the shoe on the sideline, and that's how people were like, oh, that's how they knew all this stuff. Now it's starting to make sense. So, like, that part was pretty interesting, especially when you had Team Up North fans saying, well, why didn't you change your plays? Why didn't you change your signs if you knew? We didn't know until after the game.
yeah,
or have a solid idea about it.
Well, let's hit on that real fast, because if you listen to coaches, I know Zach Smith has talked about it. Kirk has talked about it. The whole, why didn't Ohio State change their plays? Why didn't other teams change their plays if they knew this was going on? Because later on in this, it was reported that a lot of the Big Ten knew exactly what they were doing. But I think as fans, it's hard to understand the amount of effort and the amount of work it would take. And nobody really understood the depth at which they were doing this. It's my understanding that, let's say a team has like 3 separate ways to call their plays, like 3 separate base, signals that they will use to get plays across there. So teams are thinking, oh, if they have our A, let's just use B. Because they didn't know, they went to multiple games and videoed it and had all of their signals down, so take that into account, that nobody knew the depth at which they were doing this. So that was interesting to me, because I always thought that, why didn't we just change our signals,
Yeah.
Where are we at here? So October 31st was awesome. That's when the CMU sideline thing came out, and everybody had the video, bro, of him on the sidelines and that little blue dot in his camera sitting there. And the best part of the video is when the player goes over, gets tackled out of bounds, all the players or all the other coaches run to this player to check if he's okay.
Yeah.
You see old Stallions go like this, literally like off to the side, because he knew the cameras are about to be down there. At this point in time, I was 100% convinced, yeah, these jokers did this. And of course, their fan base, playing the pity party. We didn't do it. Everybody's just jealous, mad. Some of them are still playing that. Some of them are coming to reality like, dang, man.
Most of them, I would say at this point, are realistic. When that happened, I was the same as you. Yep, they definitely cheated. That's the only reason they beat us. People need to leave Day alone. Like, it's so messed up. They cheated CJ Stroud out of probably 2 Heismans. CJ Stroud, just think about it. If he wins both years, he probably wins 2 Heismans back to back. And guess what? We'll be the first school to have 2 different Heismans win 2 times, and the only school that has any Heismans that have won twice.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to think about what they stole. They probably cost CJ at least $5 million in terms of draft stock.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, when I watched that video and he hid and he had the spy cameras on, I was like, who does dude think he is? James Bond?
Yeah,
like, come on, bro. Like, you're on the sidelines. There's a million cameras in this place. You're not hiding from all the cameras. And the one excuse that I saw, like, Team Up North fans, oh, he was hired by CMU. The spy on the team they're playing? That doesn't even make sense. He's there getting hired to steal the signs from the team that they're playing right now. Come on, dude.
Yeah. And then, later on, they connected the dots. The head coach at CMU used to work on Harbaugh's staff.
I think it was an assistant
or something like that. But, there's another aspect of this whole thing that's always bothered me. And it's, when you hear, of course, there's the rivalry, right? Which makes me I hate the team up north.
Right.
And then you have their fans. And I hate that they root for the team up north. But part of me, when you heard them, the way they talked and the arrogance that they said, it really bugged me. It bugged me because of this. Like, this didn't just affect the game of football, bro. Think about the lives this affected. Think about the coaches that lost their jobs because they lost so bad. I wonder how many players got injured. I wonder how many players wouldn't have got injured if they didn't know what was coming before the snap. So, like, there's like real life involved in this stuff that this affected. We will never know what it affected, but I think that was the biggest part of why I was like, dang, man, you guys should just, admit this and move on, man, because you who knows how many lives that you just ruined. And that might sound far-fetched, but it's not. It's just not. You can act like it is and act like it's just football, or, oh, nobody got injured. The coaches would have lost their jobs anyway. Players would have been benched anyway. All this stuff. It's just not, man. Because what does it do for the morality of a player that prepares and, is working really hard just to go in a game and face a team that's cheating? So all that work they just did in the off season and preparing for the game and all this is wiped out because the other opponent is cheating at the level that it highly affects the game and the outcome of the game. So that gets me fired up, man. And so on November 2nd is when the Big Ten met with Scum and laid out the uncontroverted evidence that they had. Mm-hmm. And then that same day, the Big Ten gets on the conference call with all the, I believe it was head coaches and commissioners or whatnot. And all the other schools were urging the Big Ten, telling them they had to do something. And then all of a sudden, November 3rd, Connor is fired, or Connor resigns. That's the word they like us to use. So at that point in time, I mean, what more evidence do you need? Like, seriously, let's put yourself in their fans' position. You're a fan. These accusations come out. You don't believe they're true. And then your own team fires the coach the accusations are about. Would that not solidify in your mind that, yeah, they did this?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not sure. So
I think what the fans were saying is that Jim Harbaugh didn't know. It was a lone wolf. You remember they ran with that theory for the longest? Like, it was a lone wolf. He acted on his own. But how did he act on his own and spend over $100,000 on tickets when he's only making like probably max $50K?
Yeah. It's almost like what happened to these fans' original thought of this is a lie, it didn't happen. So they started with this is a lie, it didn't happen. Then they went to, okay, but it really doesn't even affect the game. We were really that good. Then it's Harbaugh doesn't know about it. Then it's this, then it's this. So, they went away. What happens if we judge them based off of their first statement they make of this did not happen? Ohio State hired a private investigator or whatever. Like they're so concerned with that instead of facing the reality of what they did.
Not just any private investigator, Ryan Day's brother. Remember that part. That's key.
Yeah. Well, I have it on good authority, and the good authority is my imagination that it was Ryan Day's brother that did it. But here's the point. Let's say it was, right? Who cares, bro? You got busted. Good for Ryan Day's brother. I mean, he did. It wasn't him. Like we all know that, but it's just funny that they wanted to try to turn the table around. And even watching that Netflix documentary, the attorney was like, instead of like admitting, yeah, we're busted here, he was like, well, Ohio State broke into our servers. Why don't you guys go find out, who, and punish them for that? It's like,
yeah,
because they're busy trying to deal with your idiotic takes and idiotic ideas of how to sound legit again. It's over for you.
So with that, they're just trying to project. Go deal with Ohio State servers. No, you're the ones that hacked our servers, like you're projecting. And it shows when Kay Stover said, we never even ran this play. We never put it on film. We never did it at all. We practiced it, and that was it. And when we got in the game, as soon as I lined out, they were calling the plays out. Same thing with the wide receiver on University of Washington. When he said he played against them in the national championship, he said he was pissed off because little Mikey Sandwich Drill, who's getting cooked in the NFL, by the way, was lining up to him and calling out the exact plays they were running. So it was clear. This wasn't just affecting Ohio State. It was affecting the entire nation.
Yeah. And, I've said all along that, let the NCAA do their job. Let the Big Ten do their job. I trust that they're going to handle the situation. And I also believe there's a lot about this scheme that hasn't even been uncovered, but I believe it will. I think they got to take it one step at a time. They can't overwhelm themselves. And this next date and this next thing I'm going to bring up is really what this video is about. And it's really what I want to hit on. But I'm going to finish the timeline out after I say this. But November 7th was when the document out of Wyoming for the LLC, the vacuum selling LLC that had Blake Corum's name on it. So that happened. Now this brings in a whole different dimension to this, right?
Was it only Blake Corum's name on it?
Connor Stallions and Blake Corum together. Okay. Yeah. So that was on there. That is there. That happened. The document is real.
So you're telling me that a player and a coach on the same team had a business together?
Yep. Which would make, if true, would make Blake Corum ineligible, which in turn would make every game he ever even participated in at all gone, done for, right? November 8th, Michigan. This is when they did not deny the Connor Stallions scheme, but they said the Big Ten couldn't punish them. This is when you finally see the whole, we're going to get an attorney. You can't do nothing. You don't have the right to do anything. November 10th comes around. Harbaugh is suspended by the Big Ten for 3 games. November 11th, they actually go and set a hearing for November 17th to go fight the Big Ten on this ruling. The day before the hearing, they just accept it, bro. They just, yeah,
back down.
We're taking it. Yeah. So
like Lil Jon said, quick to back down.
Bro, it was just so wild. Then November 17th rolls around and an article comes out about a booster's involvement. That was the whole Uncle T thing. And about the linebackers coach, Chris Partridge, destroying evidence, right? So you have this and the whole thing as well, which kind of breaks the whole no other coaches knew about it. Okay.
Yep.
And then the other stuff is pretty new. Then the January 5th is when the draft and the allegations came out. But let's back up to the November 7th, Blake Corum LLC out of Wyoming, right? So when this happened, it was November 7th, and then November 8th, a reporter from the team up north asked Blake Corum about it. And his response was that he acted real surprised and said, "Oh, yeah, right before I walked out here on the practice field, I just heard about it. I just got off the phone with my attorneys. I knew nothing about it." Well, then the reporter asks and actually says, "Well, that means that he forged your signature," to which his response was, "Yeah, that's what he would have had to done. My attorneys are on it." Okay. So this has just gotten lost in the sauce of this entire thing, right? So it's an LLC document that surfaced out of Wyoming. It listed Connor Stallion's home address as the business address. And then, I don't know if this has been proven yet, but then there was this rumor that Connor got in trouble with the HOA because he was leaving all these vacuums on his front porch. So,
and did you see his front porch is really small? So how many vacuums did he have out there?
Bro, I don't know, but that just cracks me up. But when I was watching Scoop the other day, they brought this back up, and they said, "Pay attention to this." And I fully believe that we need to. Not only that, I'm on it. Me and another watcher, you as well, and anybody else that wants to get involved, we're digging into this thing, man. We're going to see what we can find, because Nevada over there on Scoop alluded that there is some more stuff that's going to be coming out. He did drop a little nugget that, in my eyes, this is the nugget of nuggets. So supposedly, Blake Corum and Connor Stallions, it wasn't just a vacuum LLC. Supposedly there was a bunch of other businesses that involves properties going around. And then he dropped this. He said, Blake Corum and Connor Stallions both sold a house on the same exact day. Okay. So I don't know how you twist that around to, could it be a coincidence? 100% for sure. And then also the thing that's attached to this is the fact that, Connor Stallions was making like $55,000 a year and paid off a $500,000 house and, did all this stuff. And so I just found it interesting that this has kind of fell under, the radar. But now that the notice of allegations is out, now that all the evidence is out on the actual advanced, how they actually did it. They hired people, they paid people to go video these games, they got the games back. It's not how Connor said it happened on the Netflix. He didn't take 100,000 pictures of himself and memorize it and all this stuff. They actually did it. So, but now that this is kind of dying down, I'm curious to see if this picks back up. And I think it's going to. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, we're going to make it pick back up.
Yeah.
It's going to pick back up because we're going to force it. Between us and Buckeye Scoop is going to get picked back up, especially this aspect, because all the beat reporters haven't really covered this aspect. They haven't started digging into it yet. Everybody's still on the salacious advanced scouting scheme and how in depth it went and how effective it was, to be honest with you. And I know Connor's saying he was some kind of military intelligence. No, he was logistics. He was in charge of moving one thing from here and getting it over here. And that's what he did. It was, he was not intelligent. So
yeah,
it was pretty impressive, to be honest with you. I just think they're idiots for using a computer and accessing the cloud through the Michigan University servers. And that's what got them caught up there. And they're dumb. And Jim Harbaugh obviously is treating people badly for somebody to snitch on him.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Scoop also pulled up a picture of a whiteboard that Harbaugh's standing in front of. And on that whiteboard is several different things about integrity and telling the truth and all this stuff. And it's just, let's just take it back to the bare minimum and let's just use common sense. He knew what was going on. He is the head coach, but also it doesn't matter. So either way, Jim Harbaugh's the bad guy. Either he knew about it or he wasn't doing his job. There's no direction you go where Jim Harbaugh comes out to be clean and perfect and this amazing guy. I think he believed it. And I think that, us as fans, we're all worried about whether the Natty's going to be stripped, the Big Ten titles are going to be stripped, the games are going to be stripped, and what's going to happen to them. I believe that this will come to the light. Blake Corum will be found ineligible for every game he was in. And then I wonder, I should have looked this up before we record the video, but everybody wants, you either vacate the wins or they forfeit the wins, right? Which means that they actually gets count,
against them.
Yep, against them. So that's really
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm starting to if he's ineligible, I think they forfeit the wins.
I know.
I really do. We're going to look that up. We're going to talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to forfeit if he's ineligible and played in those games. And the thing about it, I know they're like, oh, well, don't punish the players. The players knew. JJ came out and said everybody did it. Ohio State was doing it before, and this is the only way for us to beat them.
Yeah.
Everything is a projection onto Ohio State because you couldn't legally and properly beat your daddy who owned you for the past 20 years. I mean, it is what it is. I don't want to hear the all-time record. The past 20 years, which is my lifespan that I remember, and most of the people that are watching remember, you're getting belt to ass. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's about to repeat itself again November 30th. So karma is a bitch.
And then here's the other thing. People are going to use the excuse they lost a bunch of players and lost all their coaches for this upcoming game that's about to happen. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Right.
Well, what about the other 3 years, right? You lost players then. You just kept developing them. You lost a few coaches here and there. You hired a new one and build them up. So what's going on here? You can't go from, winning the national championship to barely beating Fresno State and letting Arkansas, whatever state, score 18 points on you and get absolutely slaughtered by Texas. And I'll just go ahead and say it, get slaughtered by USC. So, I mean, that's how.
Brother, you're using that term too loosely, the development term, because I don't feel they develop. I mean, if you go back to 3 years, what are all these players doing? Nico Collins got blessed that Ohio State quarterback came through and saved his career because he was on the way out. Aiden Hutchinson is the only one that's really producing. He's a legit beast. He didn't need any of that. It helped, obviously, for him to know the plays, but he didn't need it. What happened to Ojabo, the dude that was his running mate that was eating? He's not doing anything. What happened to Mozzie Smith, the little gun toter that they tried to cover up for? He's not doing anything. He's stinking up the joint in Dallas. He's about to get up out of there. Where's the rest of these players? They're not doing anything. And you could say JJ's hurt. Yeah, it's just going to take longer for him to get exposed. Roman Wilson's hurt. It's going to take longer for him to get exposed. But he also has a legendary Buckeye QB throwing him the ball that might save his career as well. So, this whole development fraud is a bunch of BS. You had 25-year-olds. Blake Corum turned 23 the day of the game, playing against 18 and 19-year-olds. That's just what it is. They have extra 4 or 5 years in a Division I weight program, and they have Ben Herbert, who I will not take anything away from. I wish he would have stayed this year so we could see if it was really him or if it was just at 25 you start reaching your prime and peak testosterone levels. So, I mean, I don't give them anything about development. I know a lot of people like to do that. I give them zero credit for development.
Well, I use that term to prove a point that their development is joke. That is a joke. That's what I was saying. Like, those
my bad.
3 years.
I took you wrong.
Those 3 years they said they were developing so good. What
Right.
happened to their development? That was my reasoning behind saying that.
Got you.
Because not only do you have players in the NFL getting exposed,
mm-hmm.
you have players that stayed getting exposed right now. Now, we'll see what they do the rest of the year. Maybe they kick into high gear. But if you ask me, I'm not impressed. I mean, the dude on the cover of the NCAA game is an absolute joke. I would not trade him for any running back on our roster.
Same here.
I want to.
And that's not even
fan.
That's not even fan glasses on that you like to say. That's just facts. You know what I want to see? What I'm interested to see tomorrow. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch it because I'm gonna still be on the road. So I'm gonna expect some text messages from you on this. Not the Ohio State game, but the USC Team Up North game.
Yeah,
I want to know what happens with Will Johnson when he has to cover some elite wide receivers and he has an elite quarterback throwing and they don't know the plays.
Yeah,
I need you to update me on that. I'm gonna hold you to it.
I got you. I'll give Will Johnson this. So far, he's been a good tackler. That's all I got to say. But yeah, man, stay tuned. We're gonna keep digging into this. We're gonna dig into it a little more. Have a little bit of fun. I got some more Buckeye fans on board with me. They're doing some research here and there. Maybe we'll get them on here to do some talk about it. But Blake Corum, ineligible the entire time. So, if the NCAA doesn't bust him for the pre-scouting they were doing, they're about to get it anyway. So,
yep.
About to hop off here. About to watch Nebraska and Illinois game, man.
Well, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I hope you travel safe.
Yes,
and everything
brother.
went well with your daughter. And don't forget to like and subscribe, man. Also, a little news. Buckeye Boys own a website now. Go to buckeyeboys.com and it will direct you right to our new channel. Because I've heard a lot of people, they try to look our name up and it just goes to our videos on the Ohio podcast. Hopefully it doesn't stay like that forever. So I made it real simple for you. Go to buckeyeboys.com. It'll take you right to our channel. Like and subscribe. Remember, we're a fan channel. If you want the opportunity to come on, talk some Buckeye football or college football in general, get a hold of us at the buckeyeboys@gmail.com with 3 Z's. And we appreciate you watching, man.
And I got a question for you. Is the website with 3 Z's or just 1 Z?
1 Z, Buckeye Boys.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And I just want to leave you guys with this word of inspiration. It comes from the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, 31 through 32. Those are the verses. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. So I want to say that one more time. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you.
Yeah,
that's it.
We're not here to judge, man, right? We're not here to judge. We're here to love. That's what Christ called us to do. So
yes, sir.
Let's not try to do his job for him. He's pretty good at it. Let him do it.
All
right, man. Go Buckeyes.
Right, later,
OH.
IO.